Hi everyone, First Warn 5 Meteorologist Melissa Meeder here with details for today's First Warn weather day that is in place. So please, here as we go through the next kind of 36-hour time frame, know that heavy rainfall is possible, flash flooding is possible, as well as flooding concerns. So let's start off with what we can expect for the day today, and that is the potential for this afternoon all the way through tomorrow morning. That would be for heavy rainfall. Scattered flooding will be possible today. First warn weather day is in place. That's today and into tomorrow. So this afternoon is when it starts to ramp up into the overnight, and then for your Friday morning commute. There is some spotty rain and storms out there right now. Most of us are partly to mostly cloudy at this point. The cloud cover and the rain chance this afternoon will keep our temperatures at bay for many of us. So it won't be as hot, but still, with the humidity being so high, we could feel about 100 degrees for this afternoon. How much rainfall potential are we talking? Well, it looks like 1 to 3 inches of rain would be possible across the area. However, you do notice that there are some pockets of red embedded in there. Those would be the areas that we are watching for the potential for higher amounts. Now, 3 to 7 inches could be possible of rainfall. Now, keep in mind that we have already seen between 5 to even nearly a foot of rain here in some areas over the last 8 days. We are susceptible for that flood risk today because of how much rain we have seen over the last week or so. So we are not entirely sure where the heaviest rain is going to set up here. There's a stalled boundary that is going to move through the area. Where it will stall has a little bit of a question mark right now. So pockets of heavy rainfall are going to be possible. Now, when we talk about that flash flooding threat, that is also going to depend on how quickly that rain falls, as well as how slow moving that storm is. So it's challenging to pinpoint where these specific areas of very heavy rainfall will be possible. So you need to be prepared today for that potential for heavy rain and that flash flooding threat and flooding concern that we have for today. Now, right now on radar, you can see rain right now, some thunderstorm activity up towards Nottoway County, but generally along our northern border. But if you look off towards the west, some spotty activity is starting to form. Now, there may be heavy rainfall embedded within that. However, the flood risk for the time that we get into the afternoon, into the evening, is greater than this morning. Temperatures at this point at 75 degrees. I think we're going to be around 76 here as we go into probably the next hour or so, but then the EDs will take over. So it's 75 degrees out there now. We've got an easterly breeze around 11 miles an hour. I have been watching the wind over the last couple of hours or so because we could see that boundary stall out in our area somewhere around the I-70 corridor. And I've been seeing wind switching from south to north to east. So that may indicate to me that that boundary may be starting to be in our area at this point. As you go through the next couple of hours, temperatures will continue to be in the 70s, maybe the 80s once we get to about 9, but I'm thinking because we're a little bit cooler right now, mainly in the upper 70s, 30% chance for some rain until noon. We have a brief break from that, and then we will start to see the chance for rain and thunderstorms start to pick up. Once we get towards this afternoon, we do have our high temperature of 89 degrees possible, and then, as I mentioned, that cloud cover is going to do some to prevent us from getting so hot. However, there are some areas that have that potential to see dangerously hot conditions, mainly south of I-70, where they're not expecting as much as rain as the rest of the area throughout the afternoon and evening. So heat advisory continues until 7 p.m. Feels like conditions of 105 will be possible. They are likely going to be in the 90s along our southern border, or around the upper 80s to around 90 here at I-70, but could feel as hot as the triple digits, around 100, as I mentioned. And then once we get up towards our northern areas, things are much cooler in the lower to mid 80s. So I'm going to track out what we can expect for this afternoon. Now, we have the flood watch that will go into effect at 4 and will continue until tomorrow. Let's walk through what we could see as we go through the next kind of 24-hour time frame here. Now, I will say that, as I mentioned, there's some unknowns where the heaviest rainfall is going to set up. But right now, it is looking like along I-70, pockets of the metro, and points north. It will be scattered cells that have the heaviest rainfall that may be embedded within them. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, those pockets where we see a little bit of red, that's where we could see some heavier rainfall potential. As we go through the next couple of hours, spotty rain, heavy rainfall may be possible, but once we get towards the afternoon, that's when we need to start turning our attention to that potential for that very heavy rainfall. Once we go into this afternoon, there is the potential for a level 1 out of 5 risk for some strong to severe storms. If any storm does become strong, maybe we see some damaging winds, some gusts of wind, strong gusts. Overall, the main threat for today, that's going to be heavy rainfall. So keep that in mind. Then here we are, by the time we get to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we start to see some showers start to develop up towards the northwest. Those likely are going to increase in coverage, and by the time we get to 4 or 5 o'clock, could be somewhere near the metro. I mentioned those cells that are going to have some heavier pockets of rain in them, a part of the widespread rain that we see. This is doing a good job indicating that. As you can see, some darker reds that are just south of the I-70 corridor inside the 435 loop. These are hard to pinpoint where the heaviest parts of this system is going to be. However, they will be somewhere generally along and north of the I-70 corridor is what it's looking like at this point. We will continue to see rain and thunderstorm chances through the rest of the evening. By the time we get to the overnight hours, midnight, maybe we get a little bit of a break in some areas, but this certain model pulling out more rain and storms starting to build in for your Friday morning commute. As you could see, heavy rainfall possible along the I-70 corridor with lighter rain up towards our north and down towards the south. So Friday morning's commute likely going to be hazardous and messy as well. Once we get to about noon on Friday, we start to see it lift up towards the north. That unfortunately is not going to be our only rain chance for Friday. It looks like we start to see some spotty to scattered rain and storms build back in on the second half of the day for the evening and into the early overnight hours on Saturday, or I should say on Friday night, and then should be drying out once we get to Saturday. Here's a look at that 7-day forecast. We're 93 come Saturday. As you notice, though, we're still in the 80s for Friday. The 90s take over for the rest of the weekend and into the start of next week. There are some indications of our heat wave finally starting to break as we get towards the second half of next week. That's the latest update I've got for you guys today. Make sure you are staying updated with us here over the next several hours and through the rest of the 24-hour time frame due to that potential of heavy rainfall and that flash flooding concern. So I hope everybody remains safe today. Make sure to stay updated with us and be prepared to see heavy rainfall for the afternoon and into Friday morning.